I want to ask you a question that might feel a little bit uncomfortable. When you are around people, are you actually there or are you performing a version of yourself that you think they like? For most people pleasers, the self is a moving target. They change their opinions, their tone, their energy, their belief, their thoughts, depending on who is in the room. We call this being easygoing or being a social butterfly. But in the therapy room, we call this anxious attachment. Today, we are going to peel back the layers. We are going to talk about the good child syndrome and the specific attachment wound that taught you that your needs are a burden and that your only value lies in your utility. To understand why you can't say no, we have to look at the blueprint that was laid down when you were 3, 5, or 7 years old. Attachment is our first biological priority. As babies, we don't just want connection, we need to stay alive. Most people pleasers grew up with conditional parenting. This doesn't mean that your parents didn't love you. It means they were only able to show that love when you were performing correctly. Maybe they were able to notice you when you got straight A's, or when you are the quiet one, or when you are taking care of mommy's depression. You learned early on that unconditional love was not on the menu. You learned that love is something you earn. And this is the birth of the people pleaser. The belief that if I stop doing, I will stop being loved. There's a specific dynamic that many of you will recognize, and this is called parentification. This is when the roles are reversed. Maybe you had a parent who was struggling with addiction, a parent who was emotionally volatile, or they were just incredibly fragile. As a child, you became the emotional caretaker. You learned how to read the room before you could even do anything. You became hyper aware to your parents' mood because your safety depended on them being okay. When they were sad, you became the comedian. When they were angry, you became the invisible one. And this is how you lost yourself. Because when you spend your entire childhood focusing on someone else's internal world, you don't get the chance to develop your own. You don't know what you like, you don't know what you need, you don't know what you believe, because your entire identity was built around being a solution to someone else's problem. In adulthood, this shows up as that empty feeling when you are finally alone. Now let's look at the dark fuel behind people pleasing, which of course is the terror of abandonment. To someone with an attachment wound, saying no feels like a death sentence. To your logical brain, you know that if you tell your friend that you won't be able to help them with moving out, the friendship won't end. But to your nervous system, that no feels like you're being pushed out of the tribe. When you feel that ping of anxiety when you think about setting a boundary, that is your attachment wound talking. It's a primitive fear. Your body thinks that if you stop pleasing, you will be abandoned. And to a child, abandonment equals death. So you say yes even when you don't want to, because your body is trying to keep up from dying socially. You have to start teaching your nervous system that you are an adult now and you can handle someone else's disappointment. Instead of just talking about frowning, let's talk about the sheer sensory exhaustion of being a people pleaser. We call this relational hypervigilance. Because you grew up needing to manage your parents' moods, your brain developed a superpowered radar for micro expressions. You aren't just being observant. You are scanning for the slightest tightening of the jaw, a change in texting rhythm, or that specific sigh. Your brain is working overtime to solve a problem that hasn't even happened yet. And you aren't just being nice. You are performing a 360 security scan on every person in the room. You are trying to predict the weather of everyone else's emotions so that you can prepare your umbrella. That level of vigilance is a trauma response, and it's keeping you from ever relaxing into a connection. Because of this attachment wound, many have become chameleons. You mirror the person you are with so perfectly that they feel so seen, but you, on the other hand, feel invisible. This creates what we call a fragmented identity. You have a work self, a family self, a partner self, but you don't have a core self. This is why people pleasers often experience profound burnout in their 30s or in their 40s. It takes an immense amount of biological energy to maintain these different masks. You are essentially borrowing the personality of whoever is in front of you because you were never given permission to build your own. And it's not just exhausting, it's self erasure. Working through this requires asking yourself, who am I when nobody is around? There is a hidden messy accounting system inside every people pleaser. When you overgive, you aren't actually giving a gift, you are creating a debt. You subconsciously think, if I do all this for you, you are now obligated to love me, choose me, or at least not leave me. But here's the problem. The other person didn't sign that contract. They didn't ask you to overfunction. So when they don't repay the debt by reading your mind or anticipating your needs, you feel that deep sense of betrayal because you're basically keeping a tally of everything you've sacrificed and you are waiting for a payout that isn't coming. True intimacy only happens when you stop using kindness as a currency to buy security. I want to end by talking about what it actually looks like to live differently tomorrow because you can't intellectualize your way out of an attachment wound and you can't think your way into feeling safe. Healing isn't about killing the people pleaser in you because that part is actually a hero. It kept you connected to your parents when things were rocky. It ensured your survival. So instead of trying to get rid of it, we reparent it. When you feel that familiar tag to over-explain or that panic when someone is slightly unhappy with you, I want you to just recognize that that is the 3-year-old, 5-year-old, or the 7-year-old version of you that is terrified of being exiled. In that moment, your job isn't to please the person who is in front of you. Your job is to become the parent that you needed back then. This is a shift from external validation, which is basically looking to others to see if you are okay, to internal presence. It's about becoming self referenced. For example, before you say yes to that extra project or that social event that you don't want to attend, ask your body, does this cost me my peace? If it does, then the price is too high. Healing means building a tolerance for the static of someone else's disappointment. It's going to feel like detox. It's going to feel wrong at first because your nervous system was wired to equate people pleasing with safety. But every time you set a new boundary and you survive it, you are drawing a new blueprint. You are proving to your nervous system that you are worthy of existing even when you're not being useful. You are reclaiming your right to be a human being, not just a human doing.